Hello, everyone. My name is Layla, and I want to tell you a story. It's a story about my biggest fear speaking English. If you're like me, maybe you also feel scared when you try to speak in English. You worry that people will laugh at you or won't understand what you're saying. Well, I'm going to share how I face this fear. Stay with me, and by the end, you'll know how I finally spoke English with confidence. It all started about a year ago. I was working in a small office, but I dreamed of getting a better job. I had good skills, but my English was not so good. Every time I tried to speak English, my heart would race, my face would turn red, and I would feel like everyone was waiting for me to make a mistake. One day, my manager told me about an amazing job opportunity in another company. The new job paid more, had better hours, and was exactly what I wanted. But there was one problem. The interview would be in English. I was terrified. I didn't feel ready. What if I said something wrong? What if I couldn't understand the question? I thought about not even trying. But something inside me said, Layla, this is your chance. You can't run away from this. So I decided to practice. I signed up for an English class, hoping that it would help me get over my fear. My job and the need for English. My job is really important to me. I work as a customer service representative for a local company, and most of the time I handle calls in my native language. But recently, the company started getting more international customers. And guess what? They all speak English. To move up in my career, I had to start speaking English fluently. I couldn't just sit at my desk and avoid the English speaking clients forever. That's why the job interview was so important. If I could get that new position, it would change everything for me. But the thought of speaking English in a real life situation, especially in an interview, made me panic. I thought about the interviewer asking me a question and me just sitting there, frozen, not knowing what to say. The fear of making mistakes was the worst. Every time I opened my mouth to speak English, I imagined everyone laughing at me. Your accent is wrong. I thought they would say, your grammar is terrible. So, in class, I stayed quiet most of the time. I didn't ask questions because I didn't want to sound stupid. It felt like everyone was better than me. I remember one night when I had to practice speaking for homework, I stood in front of a mirror, trying to say just one sentence in English. But I couldn't do it. I felt embarrassed even when I was alone. How am I ever going to talk to real people if I can't even practice by myself? I thought. Meeting friends who changed everything. Then something unexpected happened. One evening, after my English class, I was walking to the bus stop when I overheard two girls speaking English fluently. They looked like they were having fun, laughing and chatting with each other confidently. I couldn't believe it. Were they also learning English like me? I gathered my courage and introduced myself. Their names were Sarah and Maria, and to my surprise, they had started learning English only a few months before. They were just as scared as I was in the beginning, but now they spoke with ease. I asked them, how did you do it? How are you so confident? Sarah smiled and said, "At first, I was terrified, but I realized that making mistake is part of the process. You can't learn if you don't make mistakes." I practiced every day, even when I was nervous. Maria added, "I started talking to myself in English when I was alone. I also recorded myself speaking and listening to it later. It helped me hear my mistakes and fix them." Their tips sounded simple, but it gave me hope. If they could do it, maybe I could do too. I started following their advice. Every day I practiced a little more. I made a lot of mistakes, but I didn't give up. I recorded myself speaking and listening to it, just like Maria did. Slowly, I began to notice small improvements. A dramatic turning point. Then came the big day, my job interview. The moment I had been dreading for weeks. I walked into the office, my hands shaking and my heart pounding. The interviewer smiled at me and asked the first question. In English. I felt my throat tighten, but I remembered Sarah and Maria's advice. I took a deep breath and started speaking. At first, my voice was shaky, and I stumbled over my words. But I didn't stop. I kept going. The more I talked, the more I relaxed. I realized the interviewer wasn't judging me for my mistakes. She just wanted to understand what I was saying. By the end of the interview, I couldn't believe it. I had done it. I had spoken in English for the entire interview. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. I had faced my fear, and I felt proud of myself. My final victory. A few days later, I got a call from the company. They offered me the job. I couldn't believe it. All those months of practice, the fear, the mistakes, it had all been worth it. I had achieved something I never thought possible. I had spoken English confidently in a professional setting and succeeded. Now, I'm not afraid to speak English anymore. I know I'm not perfect and I still make mistakes, but that's okay. Every mistake is an opportunity to learn, and if I can do it, so can you. So, to everyone listening to this story, remember, don't let fear stop you. Speak up, make mistakes, and keep going. You will get better, and one day you'll look back and be amazed at how far you've come. The power of perseverance. Since that day, I've become more confident in my job, and I continue to improve my English every day. I still meet with Sarah and Maria, and we practice together. Sometimes we laugh at our mistakes, but we know it's all part of the journey. If you're scared of speaking English, just remember this. The fear never really goes away completely, but you learn to manage it. The more you practice, the less control the fear has over you. And one day you'll surprise yourself, just like I did. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it inspires you to keep learning, keep practicing, and most importantly, to never give up.